We are live. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining this third class in the Light and Love Tarot Summit. Today we have Tara Green as our guest, and I'm David Lacopo, your host. We also have Tiffany Crosara on chat. She'll be interacting on chat. We actually really want everyone here to be interactive on chat. So don't be shy, ask questions, send us your comments. And at the end of this session, we'll have a Q&A with Tara, and I'll do my best to go through all the questions. And that's it. So, Tara, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you, David. Thank you, David. And thank you, Tiffany. I can't see you, but thank you. I know you're there. So thank you so much for inviting me to be on this telesummit.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us live today. It means a lot to all of us for supporting this cause. And so we can start. Actually, for those, I just want to mention a quick thing for everyone that stays till the end of this webinar today. We'll have a special bonus from Tiffany Crosara. It's a birth card bundle, which includes an ebook and a audio, which is amazing. So you'll receive that by email for all those that stay connected. And also at the end of this webinar, we'll have 3 special offers. We'll have a special course from Tara. We have Tiffany's Crosara retreat, and we also have my offer for the Tarot Reading Festival this September in Montreal. So we'll be sharing these links at the end of this webinar. And so just to give a little guidance how we'll proceed with this webinar today, we'll start with a little intro, actually an intro for Tara. Then we'll proceed with, I would say, talking just a little bit about Tara, what you will be presenting at the festival in September. And then Tara will have a nice class for us today. I'm very excited about our soul and life path. She also has a special meditation we'll be trying today. So very excited, looking forward for that. And again, feel free to send us your questions, and we'll try and get to all of your questions at the end of during the Q&A.
Okay.
So welcome, Tara.
Oh, thank you. Welcome, and hi everybody out there. I can't see you, but I know you're there. I can feel you. So welcome, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you today. Yeah. So, okay. So, David.
Yes. Intro. Yeah, from the beginning. You know, in the beginning, and then how you got into tarot, why, when did it happen? What really, captivated you that said, like, I really need to get into tarot, and then how you first started applying it.
Okay. Well, I think it's always called me because I was always, since I was very young, I think I was always I always say I was kind of born awake. I always kind of knew that, I wasn't just from here, and there was all these different dimensions. And literally, I was having very powerful dreams from the time I was very young. So I have really early memories of symbols showing up in my dreams very strongly. And then I think I bought my first tarot deck when I was a teenager. At that time, there was just the Rider-Waite Smith deck. And I remember going through that. But really, literally, I kind of didn't really like the images on it. And so I kind of put it away. I think I played with it put it away, forgot about it. And again, these dreams kept coming to me. And then I remembered, I think somebody gave me a Mother Piece tarot, which is not a traditional, sort of a traditional, but not a traditional tarot deck. And then I remember I bought a handmade Astro tarot deck like over 30 years ago, actually. So I just remembered all this last night. So then, I read an article actually in the newspaper in Toronto that there was a psychologist who was using tarot cards with her patients. And as I had always been interested in psychology and Carl Jung, I started out as an artist. And I went, oh, bingo, that's it. So I went to teach with her. But in the meantime, I've been working with all kinds of other teachers, Tibetan Buddhist teachers and shamanic teachers, and reading like crazy my whole life. And so she really, she had about 300 tarot decks in those days.
Wow.
And so she kind of said, which one do you want to use? And I was really attracted to the Thoth tarot. So that was my main tarot deck. And I think I met Rachel Pollack actually back then years ago. She was friends with this lady. And then I really got into it, and I met this one of my main teachers, who was like this walking Kabbalistic encyclopedia, tarot, astrology, I Ching, and really studied with him very thoroughly. And a lot of it was meditations. And then he said, you're going to do this professionally. And I went, yeah, sure. Although I've always been self-employed, doing something myself. And so he threw me into this thing where I went to corporate events. And so I really liked that because it was kind of like I was cleverly disguised, taking this very sacred thing into this kind of profane environment. So really, I've been doing that professionally for 28 years. I've been, making my living like this all this time. And so I get to meet people I would never normally meet. And, and also it's like you're the confessional in the middle of this noisy party. So there is some kind of very strange energies there, but it got me to totally focus because you have to stay focused on the cards and on this person with tons of distraction. I mean, really not talk about meditating in silence. This is the opposite. But it really worked for me. And I've literally read for 30,000 people over all these years. So I've really connected with, that many people, and, I love it. And, I do the astrology too. I had actually studied astrology before I studied the tarot. So for me, that's one of the reasons why I picked the Thoth tarot, because it has the astrology symbols on the card. So to me, that was just gave it a whole other layer of meaning, but not everybody does that. But for me, that really worked to do both.
And with all your readings that you had, was there a specific reading that you remember where throughout the reading you just got a big wow, sort of enlightenment moment that brought you so much more understanding while you're reading for someone else, but it just changed your perspective on so much?
Yeah, because, you're totally in the moment. So, and I remember feeling all these incredible heart connections with people. And like, I remember even recently I was in Niagara Falls actually at an event, and this woman came up to me, and I'm very good as a medical intuitive. I can't really advertise this, but for some reason, boy, that stuff comes up. I have to tell people. So I remember saying to this lady, maybe you should go to the doctor, I'm feeling something. And then I saw her a year later, and she came up to me and she said, you actually saved my life because I took your advice. I went to the doctor. They found out an early breast cancer and they had it taken care of. But so you have to really trust, but I'm not a doctor. I have to be careful about what I say about that.
For sure.
But things like that have happened, or I've met people and they say, I met you 10 years before and you said this, and, but it's not about fortune telling, you see? So it's not about that. And that's what I've always told people, I'm not karmically taking responsibility for your stuff. I've always given people the tarot cards. They have to shuffle them. My teacher always said, use your left hand because you're drawing in the unconscious, even if you're left-handed. Shuffle the cards, think about what you want. And, I'm just going to interpret, this is really your reading. You actually have all the knowledge. So I'm not taking responsibility for any of that. And one of my biggest mantras is I know nothing. So in some ways it's like being the fool every day. Do you know what I mean? So you can stay totally open, all the time and get new insights.
Perfect. And just quickly, if we talk about our clairs, when you receive your intuition, what would you say your most sensitive clair would be when you're working with your intuition?
It really depends. And also because I react to different people's energies. I've had actually readings with people where literally we've gone into trance states. We've literally, the reality has shifted. I've channeled the whole past life memories in that, it really depends on the person. So, I tend to feel like if it's really something physical, I tend to feel it in my body. But I do both. So it's different. I hear it, I see it, I feel it,
Amazing.
So yeah, I kind of, it depends on the person. And that's why I'm saying I can't guarantee I'm always going to see everybody's past lives.
That's right.
But definitely, if it's meant to come through, you have to trust the process. Or, I totally trust the cards. People think there's going to be a specific outcome. Not necessarily, you have to go through this process, you know what I mean? And the process, you can sort of venture, it'll take 6 months, 9 months, for you to go through this process, so I kind of fire on all levels there.
Amazing. Very awesome. All right, great. And as I mentioned before, Tara's actually a speaker at the Tarot Reading Festival in September in Montreal. You want to give us just a little sneak peek, Tara, of what you will be presenting at the festival?
Yeah, well, I'm going to help people to talk about, again, working with these, it's very basic, working with the numerology, with your soul card teacher, your personality, your hidden teacher, your shadow card, very important. I'm going to be talking about 2020 because we're actually, the workshop takes place actually just at the autumn equinox, which is very nice because I like to do ceremonies too. And so might want to bring in a little bit of that too. But really talking about 2020, because it's a very important year. We're starting a new decade. There's a number of numerological teachers in that year, and it'll be experiential. It'll be more like a kind of what they call a gestalt therapy, kind of really embodying the cards, so you get a real felt sense of working with those symbols. So they're not just abstract. You're not just looking at the card. You know what I mean?
Amazing.
It becomes a living entity. There are archetypal forces that you work with.
Great. So it'll be an interactive workshop, so everyone can bring their tarot decks. We can
bring
follow
your tarot
with.
Yeah,
amazing.
And interact. I like to work with all kinds of different people, and sometimes I don't really know until we're there exactly how it's going to work. So there's going to be a structure, but yes, please come, and it'll be lots of fun, and you'll learn a lot.
Great, fantastic. Hope to see you. Most of you, all of you, all that can make it to Montreal. I know it can be very far for some of you. Looking forward to seeing all of you. So Tara, we can start with today's class.
Okay.
I'll let you take the lead, and we'll follow with your teaching.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to do something very basic, which is, I think most people are familiar with this. I believe, I think one of the first tarot books I bought was Mary Greer's Tarot for Yourself, and she talked about using the numerology, using your birth date, adding your birth day, month, and year horizontally. So, for example, if you're born, I had this written down here. Where did it go now? So if you're born, July 23rd, 2019, for example, you would add up that column and you would come out to 2049. Now, the 4-digit total that your birthday adds up to she calls it a high priestess year. And I think there's different ways to interpret that. I tend to tell people it's kind of a destiny year. And if it's already happened to you, it's actually kind of hindsight in a way, is 2020 here. I ask people, what happened to you in this year? Do you remember something specific? I would say 90% of the people, because I have done this, I do this at corporate events for people, what happened to you? 90% of the people say, oh, I changed my job, or I met my husband, or I moved across the country, or, sometimes it can be somebody passing away close to you too. It's not always positive, and some people, it depends. If you're very young, it's more on an internal level. You may not be so conscious of it, So if your birthday adds up to 2049, you add up 2 plus 0 plus 4 plus 9, and you get 15. So the larger number is what I call your personality number. Now, different people use different interpretations of that number. So it would be like your persona, or how people see you, or how you present yourself in the world. And then you reduce that further to the number 6. So the number 6 would be what I call your soul path or your life path number. Okay. Now, I'm just going to go through these, and I'm also going to show the cards because I like to do visual things. I know most people use, the Rider-Waite Tarot, and I use the Thoth Tarot. Now, I am a visual person. I started as an artist, and we're all visual people, of course. And, that's what the tarot is all about. Pictures worth 1,000 words. So I'm just going to go through each sequence of the tarot, and you'll see how they work together. So, for example, if you've added up, I can't tell if people are out there, so I don't know if they've done this before. I assume they have. If you've added up your numbers, and your number is the number 1, the Magician, okay? So the Magician is your soul path, your life path number, okay? I'm going to put those aside there. Let's see. Your shadow, your hidden teacher would be the Wheel of Fortune here, okay? And the card of the Sun, okay? So you would be, basically, it starts the larger number, 19 would be the personality number, and then 10, the Wheel of Fortune, and then number 1, the Magician, okay? Has everybody got that? Now, I also like to bring in the fact that the cards relate to the planets. So, for example, the Magician is the planet Mercury, and like I said, right now we're in Mercury retrograde, so I don't do reversals, actually, but you would think about the Magician being upside down as a Mercury retrograde here. Okay, so these two cards, the Magician, Mercury, the first card rules Virgo and Gemini, okay? All right, now, and then number 10, the Wheel of Fortune, you can see, I don't know if you can see there on the Thoth card, it's the symbol that's backwards. I guess it's the symbol of the planet Jupiter. Okay, the good luck planet, positive, expansive planet. And then, of course, the sun is the sun. Okay, all right. Sun is the sun, and it rules the sign of Leo, actually. Okay. All right. And then if you're the high priestess, now I am a high priestess, actually. And, one of the reasons that I always wear my hat when I work is because you're supposed to have that headdress on. There is a, religious symbolism where people always cover their crown chakras, and that's to protect themselves. Okay. So the high priestess, you can see in the, Rider Waite and then in the Thoth Tarot, it's a very different kind of symbolism. It's much deeper, many more symbols. But what you want to do is start to notice all of the different symbols on the card. Okay. So the high priestess is the moon. Okay. She's the moon. Okay. All right. And then the number 11. So if you see 1111 on the clock, and I know lots of people do, they see the 1111, it is a master number. Now, this is where it gets complicated. Some people use justice, and in the Thoth deck, it's strength. Okay. So we're going to kind of stick with the more traditional one. Not even going to go into why that's there or anything about that. So whichever deck you use, you would use justice. Now, it's very obviously the symbol of Libra here, and it's very obviously Leo, okay, in the tarot. Okay, so part of the symbolism of number 2, I guess I'm doing this backwards, aren't I? Okay. Number 20, justice. That would be your personality, and then 11 would be your hidden teacher, and number 2 would be your soul path number. So the judgment day. Okay, there's the angel Gabriel. Okay, now this card traditionally has no planetary attributes because it's what's called a maternal number, although some people associate it with Pluto. I don't know if there's people that do astrology out there. Okay, so then if you're a symbol number 3, there's the Empress. Now she is the planet Venus. There's the symbol of Venus on her card. She is the great mother. She's always shown as a pregnant woman. Okay, the Empress. So some of the cards you can see visually that they're quite similar, especially, of course, the Hangman here. The Hangman also has no planetary attributes, but in modern astrology, they would associate it with the planet Neptune.
Okay.
Neptune. Okay. Planet of dreams. Okay. And then we have the world. So if your personality is 21, the world or the universe here, which is related to the planet Saturn, the planet of reality. So you would be a 21, a number 12, hidden teacher, and number 3 would be the Empress. Okay. All right.
We'll move on to my number now.
Okay, I was just going to ask you, David. You're number 4. Okay. So if you're a number 4, now 2020 is going to be your year. So, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit too as the passing years go by. If your number harmonizes with that year, that tends to accentuate, of course, and bring out those numbers. So the number 4, the Emperor, the King, it is the sign of Aries. You can see it has the symbol of the ram's horns there. So Aries. Okay. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the planetary rulers of those as well. Okay, and then death. So if you are number 3, then your hidden teacher or the personality number is death, number 13. Okay, and then you also are the Fool. So number 0 or 22. So if you have 0, 22, the Fool, your hidden teacher is death, and your root card would be the Emperor. So it's one of the other. I mean, you always have some. So people have these first 4 numbers, always have 3 different numbers associated with the Fool. Okay. All right. Now, so then we're on to number 5 here. So if your root number is the number 5, it's the Hierophant, the Pope, the High Priest here. In the Thoth Tarot deck, I it's a very feminist deck. I know that this is a much maligned deck, and even my first teacher said, you're going to work with the Thoth deck. It has a lot of kind of negative connotations, but I've never found that. And it's a very feminist deck because there's Isis there on her chart.
I actually love using the Thoth Tarot deck to meditate and contemplate with, rather than readings. There's so many symbolism, and you actually can go really deep within the images.
Yeah, and I think when I first started, studying tarot officially, that was in 1991. That's what attracted me to this deck, was how deep it was, and it just drew me right in, So this is associated with the symbol of Taurus, although it has all of the 4 different, what they call fixed signs on it. So if you're a 16 personality, you're a number 5. And so if you're a number 5, if your number reduces to 5, then 16 is your hidden teacher number. Okay. All right. So then, Temperance here. So number 14. Now, number 14 Temperance. In this deck, it's called Art. In the Thoth deck, it's called Art or Alchemy, and it is the symbol of Sagittarius. Okay. All right. Okay. So the number 14 there. Sorry, 14. Okay. Where are we here? I'm getting mixed up now. Okay. 14-5. Okay. 14-5. Okay. So now, if you're the number 6, if your root number comes to the number 6, that's the Lovers. Now, this is one of the cards, I have to say, when I first started studying tarot, that perplexed me the most, having studied astrology, because it was associated with Gemini. And I went, how could Gemini be associated with the Lovers, you know? But then I realized it's all about duality. It's about the polarity. It's about the drawing of the opposites. And you have to learn through that yin-yang, the opposing forces, but they're not black or white. Okay, so Gemini, the number 6. So if your birthday reduces to the number 6, then your hidden teacher is the Devil. Okay, now, all right, the Devil, a very complicated card. So the Devil would be your shadow. Okay, very important card for everybody to work with. Okay, if your birthday reduces to the number 7, the Chariot's very similar actually in both of these decks. This is related to the sign of Cancer. Oh yeah, and the Devil is the sign of Capricorn, in case I missed this. The Devil, Capricorn. Better the Devil you know than the one you don't. Okay. Okay, so the Chariot, Cancer energy, okay, number 7. And the 7, of course, relates to the chakras, the 7 days of the week, laws of cycles. Okay, so now, number 16 here, the Tower. Now, the Tower is associated with the planet Mars. Shocking revelation. Okay, Tower. Okay. You know, I remember actually when, little anecdote here, when 9/11 happened, I had a big conversation with a friend of mine about how that America had gone through the initiation of the Tower, you know, and where were they going to go? Were they going to go to the higher level, which is number 17, the Star, or were they going to go into the Devil? You know what I mean? And blame. You know, so it's kind of interesting, you know, and really you have to see how these cards really impact you in your life on many, many levels. Okay, so there we are at number 8 here. So number 8, Strength. And so here is, again, there's the Strength, Justice. Do you want to say anything about this, David? I didn't want to get into it too much, but...
No, I mean, we have a personal preference and choice in choosing whether you want to work with the Strength energy or as the Justice energy.
Right.
I personally use 8 as Strength, 11 as Justice. Also, when we my next week I'll be presenting when I bring in talking about Tarot and the Kabbalah. So when I map out with the Kabbalah, I always use Justice as 11. It's just the way I work and the way it maps out with the minor arcana cards. It flows nicer, and it works for me. So, I mean, you have to find what works best for you, you know, how you like to work with it, and then that's what you go forward with.
Yeah, and I mean, the interesting thing for me is, you know, like you have to pay attention to the cards, the symbols, you know, there's the infinity symbol over the Strength card and also over the Magician. So 8 and 11 are really interchangeable. You know, 11 is a master number. 8 is the symbol of karma or infinity. And so, you know, that's where they're interchangeable as well. And I think, you know, for me, I like to use both because they do kind of bring in different energies, you know, so. All right, so if you are a number 8, then the Tower would be your hidden teacher, and that's, of course, the planet Mars, and, of course, you know, Libra.
It would be Star. Wouldn't it be Star?
Yes, the Star, sorry. I'm mixed up now. Okay. Strength is Leo. That's very obvious. There's a symbol of the lion. This is actually Justice. If you know astrology, that's Libra. Okay, yes, so the Star, sorry. Got mixed up there. I'm a little ADD sometimes. Okay. So the Star. Okay, the Star. So if the Star, the number 17 is your personality, then number 8 would be your root or your soul path number and your hidden teacher.
And the Thoth Star card is one of my favorite stars. It's just, you're going to bring it up closer, the colors and the images.
It's very beautiful. I really like this one better because one of the things I'm going to talk about, for example, this card, you know, to embody the energies of the card. So the fact that the goddess here, the water bearer, is somehow, you know, her left hand is up to the star. I do a meditation where I tell people to go out at night to get yourself grounded, to choose a star in the sky, and to imagine that from, you know, after you've pulled up the earth energy, you would bring the energy through the earth out through the top of your head and send it out to that star. And so once you connect to that star, you kind of look back at the earth and it's this little tiny dot, if you can even see it at all. And then you want to think about, how am I bringing down this higher consciousness, this cosmic consciousness? It's Aquarius energy. And you bring it down, literally, it goes through your heart chakra. You can see on the card there. And then you're dispensing it down to the earth. And water, I think people get mixed up about this card and thinking that it's water. Water meant consciousness, but Aquarius is the symbol of air. And so also it is important to use elements. I'm going to talk about that a little bit too. Okay. All right. So this is the Hermit. The Hermit here, very similar. Okay, now I wanted to mention that one of the teachers that I had was a Tibetan, the first Canadian, the first North American who was recognized as a reincarnation of a Tibetan Buddhist master, and he was also a Western mysteries person, and he used to do these whole weeks of tarot initiations with music. It was like, what do you call it? It was a whole initiation on all levels, meditations, music. The whole temple was full. Somebody had made these 22 major arcana, really large felt banners. And I didn't do the whole week with him, but I did a 3-day with him. And you had to embody each card. Now, at one point, I was the hangman. And they actually strung me up upside down, underneath me. It was actually very painful. But somebody also went out and did the Hermit. So we were out in the woods. Somebody came out with a lamp. We went out at night and just stood there with this lamp. And it was so amazing to have this sense of, oh my God, it's really this guide in the dark. And it felt so protective. And it was really a symbol that you were not alone, which is really what the card is about. It seems like you're alone, but you have all the energy inside. So part of the energy of these cards is to really, feel into the cards, really go into them on a very deep level. Okay.
Another also meditation practice we can do is just act out the card, the image, the position of the characters, and just close your eyes and feel that energy flow through you.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I wanted to mention. And okay, and then we have the card of the moon here. So if your personality is the number 18, the moon, your soul path, and is the number 9, the Hermit. Okay, so it's very different here on the Thoth Tarot. It's a very different energy. It's very eerie. It's very much the dark side of the moon. It's very much a card of rebirth here. Okay. All right.
And it always reminds me, I don't know if you've seen the movie The Never-Ending Story.
Oh, yeah.
When you have to cross the 2 pillars and you might get struck by lightning or not. So it's that fear of the unknown. The Thoth card, for some reason, always brings me back to that eerie feeling of not knowing if it will make it through. Yeah, no,
it's scary. It's a very scary card. You have to pass through the pillars, the twin pillars, right? And so, in all the cards where you see symbols repeated, the twin pillars, the pomegranates, the moons, you have to kind of lay them out, and actually you can do a little game where you look at, all of these symbols have these. And the more you look into the cards, the more you'll see there's little embedded symbols everywhere. Okay. So I just want to talk about a bit about, if you really want to work with these cards, you have to start a practice. And I usually recommend, I like to do rituals, to set up a little space aside in your house, if you can, where you're going to meditate at least every day, 5 minutes, even 10 minutes a day. Sometimes it's good to do this before you go to bed, because then you will take the energy of whatever card you're working with into your dreams. So for example, the card of the moon, for example, if you say, well, I want to work with the moon, I want to work with my dreams, you would sit and put this card in front of you on your altar. You can just get a cloth. I mean, if you don't have much space, I would recommend just get a beautiful cloth. I also recommend that you light a candle, and you would light a candle. I mean, you can use white, but if you associate the candles with the 4 elements, so fire, water, air, earth. So fire would be red. Some people use yellow. Water would be blue. Earth would be green or brown, and air would be white. Okay. And so light a candle. It signifies that you're awake, that you're conscious, and you would sit with the card in front of you and stare at the energies, and just do a very simple, deep breathing technique. So just begin by watching your breath. If you've never meditated, it's really just that simple. It's just slowing down and sitting up straight and just imagining your breath. So you can do this with your eyes closed. It helps you to go within. So just very slowly breathing in, just naturally, and then breathing out with your mouth open. And at least take 3 or 4 slow breaths. You will naturally start to slow down. And that's all it really is. And then I would sort of go back and forth between opening your eyes, where you look at the symbols of the cards. You'll notice, here's the moon, but there seems to be almost like a base on the moon. There's the 2 towers. There's the 2 wolves or dogs, the crayfish, the water. So all of the different symbols here. And you would literally like visualize that you're breathing in the card. You can either kind of like have it step into you like this so that it kind of imprints on you, or you can literally like breathe it in like some magic, breathe that card in and really bring those symbols and feel them come alive, like you're breathing the moon, or you're breathing the tower, or you're breathing what the high priestess, whatever it is, and really sit there with this. Close your eyes and let those symbols and the energy it activates. These are living archetypal symbols. Once you start working with them, they respond. It's like the whole point of the tarot is to have this conversation with your holy guardian angel. And all of these symbols are the path to get you there. So, you have to really learn to work with each one of them. And so, if you're too much in your head all the time and, you're thinking you can't do this or whatever, you have to just kind of trust. You have to really be the fool, just trust, oh, what do I know? Okay, sure. Why not? I'll step off the cliff, and just trust. So on some level, even if you think nothing is happening, you have to trust like the fool, be in a state of innocence that something is happening. You've activated something. You just ask, it's, these archetypes come. That's all it is, And so begin to work with that. I also recommend that before you go to sleep at night, especially, you sleep with the card. You put it under the pillow and you do dream intentions with the cards. And this is a very powerful practice. So even if you don't like to meditate, just do it a little bit before you go to sleep with the card. I know sleeping with the devil, people get a little freaked out about that one, of course. And like I
Something
said,
to try.
David and I were talking before. I said, I do these workshops with people who know nothing about the tarot. And I say, you have to go and put this card under your pillow at night and, dream with it. And I'm, going, don't be nervous. Don't have any expectations. But, if you wake up in the morning and you've had a dream, remember what happened. It's very important. Been working with my dreams since I was a teenager. Speak them into your phone, or some people keep voice activated tape recorders by their bed. So if they wake up,
keeping a notepad and pen,
a journal,
a journal, because the most important thing is as soon as you open your eyes and you're conscious that you're awake, you have to write it down right away.
Yeah.
Sometimes within 2 minutes, if you wait, it's lost. It's gone.
Yeah, it takes 30 seconds to lose a dream.
Oh, there you go.
Because I've done dream workshops for years too. Yeah. So you have to kind of go, wait, if you're jumping out of bed, set your alarm a little bit early. You just lay in bed and you go, wait, where was I right now? I was in another dimension. My soul was kind of awake. I was interacting with these archetypes. And it takes practice. I mean, there is actually a dream yoga practice that the Tibetan Buddhists and shamans practice. So really start to work with the tarot in your dreams. I think that's one of the best ways to work with that. So your altar. So the altar, it can be very simple. You just have to start a practice every day and work with that. And if you do yoga, the 7 chakras are also associated with the planets. Okay, so the root chakra is associated with the world card, the number 21, which is Saturn. The womb chakra, the creative chakra, is associated with Jupiter, the wheel of fortune. The will chakra is associated with, there's different ones here. You know what? Hold on a second. The will chakra is associated with the Mars, with the tower, number 16. So there's different ones. I'm going to start over again. Root chakra is the world. Number 21, the will chakra, or the creative chakra, is Mars. So that's sexuality, the tower. The solar plexus is the wheel of fortune, Jupiter. The heart is associated with the sun, number 19. Your throat chakra is associated with the Empress, Venus, speech. Mm-hmm. Your third eye is associated psychic with the high priestess, the moon, of course. And the crown chakra is associated with Mercury, the magician. Okay, so I want to just mention that. Now, so I want to also just emphasize that people keep it simple, that they don't, pressure themselves, that this is a practice that you're going to go through. If you want to talk about, I'm going to talk a little bit about the signs of the zodiac and the cards. This is another thing that you can do as well. So if you're in Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, you're the Emperor, the number 4. I do find that actually some people, they are Aries, they have the Emperor. It's kind of doubly manifest that energy. And then your card that works with you is Mars. Aries is ruled by the planet Mars, which is the tower. So as you get more into this, you can go, oh, okay, so I'm an Emperor, but that tower is always part of what I have to work with as well. Okay, Mars. Okay, so if you're a Taurus, you're number 5, the Hierophant, the Pope, and you're ruled by Venus, number 3, the Empress. Okay. If you're a Gemini, you're a number 6, the Lovers, and Mercury, the number 1, the Magician, is your ruling planet. So work with the 2 of those. If you're a Cancer, you're a number 7, the Chariot, and the Moon governs the sign of Cancer, and that's the High Priestess. If you're a Leo, you're number 8. I would work with it as the Lion, number 8. And you're ruled by the Sun, which is number 19. If you're a Virgo, you're the Hermit, number 9. You're ruled by Mercury again. If you're a Libra, again, number 11, Adjustment, and you're ruled by Venus. If you're a Scorpio, you're a number 13. That's the Death card, and Mars is your ruler. That can be the Tower. If you're a Sagittarius, you're number 14, Temperance or Art, and Jupiter, the Wheel of Fortune, is your ruling planet. If you're a Capricorn, you're the Devil, and you're ruled by Saturn, number 21, the World. And if you're an Aquarius, you're the Star, 17, ruled by Saturn traditionally, or Uranus in modern astrology, which is associated with the Fool. The Fool usually has no planetary influences. I'm not sure I would associate the Fool with any planets myself. And then if you're a Pisces, you're number 18, the Moon, ruled by Jupiter traditionally, or Neptune, which is the Hangman. Okay. So David,
and do you have, Tara, just a quick question.
Yes.
Do you have this information accessible on your website if the audience would like to read more through it and learn more about
you know what? Yes, I will put it on there. It's not there right now. It's because I'm redoing my website, but I will have it up there shortly. Okay, so intention setting is everything. Again, so before you go to sleep at night, you tell yourself, I will be awake in my dreams. I will remember my dreams. Now, some people use a little trick where they drink a half a glass of water before they go to sleep. And when they wake up, you drink the rest of the water. And that kind of helps you to work with your dreams as well. So again, dreaming, yes. And then working with your shadow. I think it's very important that people work with their shadow cards, their hidden teachers. This is the part that people don't want to own up to. They avoid. But really, the greatest work that you're going to get is doing the shadow work. So working with all of those hidden teacher cards. Okay, so for example, I wanted to talk about, so this year, 2019, because you can see that, you know, whatever year we're in, this is a big universal year. So 2019, when you add it up, the 2019, where are we here? Reduces to the number 12. So that's kind of the outer influence, number 12. So we're all going through the Hangman as kind of our initiator or our influence this year. So the Hangman is a really complicated card because it's really about, you know, the questions to ask. The whole thing about working with the tarot is to ask the questions. It's not necessarily about the answers, and getting the right question is really half the battle in a way. So the more questions you can ask, the more it leads to more questions. The more questions, the deeper you go. It's like, you know, the layers of the onion. So the Hangman, you know, the Hangman is the Nordic god Odin, and he voluntarily hung himself upside down from the tree of life, or the world tree, to access the knowledge of the runes, which is another form of divination. And that is part of that alphabet that they used. So, you know, the thing about the Hangman is to look at what are our own hang-ups. What are we hung up on? You know, these are usually, we all have blind spots, and the Hangman can be one of the most powerful cards to help you to get through it. And again, I mean, like I said, I was made into the Hangman, hanging upside down, literally, in this thing. I mean, maybe you want to do handstands, or, you know, the upside down world, you know, for people who watch Stranger Things, you know, we're all kind of in the upside down world this year. And so, you know, you also want to think about, it's also associated with being a martyr or a scapegoat. So where are you taking the role of the martyr? You know, where are you willing to take the blame for everybody else? That's a very important thing. Especially, we were talking about when you read tarot, that you tend to take on the projection of other people, that you have all the answers, or you're going to fix it for them, or something like that. You know, if you are a reader yourself, it's very important to not get caught up or hung up in those kinds of things. So really, the Hangman, in a way, because it's related to the planet Neptune, it's about learning boundaries. It's about learning when to say no. So it's very important to set clear boundaries. So the Hangman is also about just letting go. You know, I always think of it as, you know what, you can't control everything. At some point, the smartest thing you can do is say, you know what, the universe is going to take care of it. I throw my hands up, you know, let it happen, let it not happen. I'm okay. And that's a very important part of manifesting too. You can ask for what you want, and you can intend it, but then, you have to let the universe take care of it.
Exactly. And it's also, I also always feel the energy of being true with yourself, being true with who you truly are and not pretending you're someone else. So when you're trying to manifest something, make sure it's exactly in line with, your real energy, your thoughts, who you truly are, your soul.
Yep. Yeah, that's very important. Okay. So we can see how all the crazy hang-ups and what's going on in the world, what people are hung up on, that's really important as well. So the process of allowing, there's a kind of grace to that too. Now, we're also, the number 2019 reduces to number 3. So this is very important as the year of the Empress, or the Great Mother Venus. So it's a year of creativity. It's a year of birth. So you would want to feel that you're pregnant, And I would say that, men have a spirit womb. So, we're all pregnant, creating, whatever, children, ideas, whatever, all the time. The whole life is in a process of creation. And it's also about love. So very much focusing on giving love, nurturing, caring for people, women, really empowering women. And then, since the beginning of the year 2000, I always thought, wow, we're in for 1,000-long-year reign ruled by the High Priestess, because she's, beginning this 1,000 years. And actually, we did a big ceremony, actually, January 1st, 2000. I remember I had a whole lot of people in the studio talking about, really initiating the High Priestess millennium. So it's very interesting that the High Priestess, for all of this time is really the lead number. Now, you also want to think about, your personal numbers for this year. You can add up your birth date, your month, and to the year. And again, get individual guidance for what you're going through this year. Okay, and that would also help you. So the more you can, just begin to interact with this, the better. Let's see what else we want to talk about here. I don't know, how are we doing here for time, David?
We're doing good. I'll see how many questions we have. Let's see on the chat. Maybe we could start taking some questions. Well, we have quite a few questions. How about we start taking some questions?
Okay, sure.
So let me go. I know Tiffany has marked the first one from Jacqueline. So number 5 is 16 in shadow. So for the Hierophant is the Tower our shadow card.
Right. Okay. Hi, Jacqueline. How are you? Yeah. So what is the question?
That's
about how you work with it?
If the 16 is that actually your shadow card.
Okay. So the Tower. Okay. The Tower. Sorry. Yes, David.
Yes.
What?
No, go on.
The Tower. Okay. Now the Tower is a very complex card, and in a way, I'm glad I did mention this 9/11 thing. The Tower. The Tower is the structure, the ego, the identity. That's the whole thing about the tarot is working your way into your soul, being guided by your soul. So you're authentic you're on your true soul's path here. So the Tower is one of the stages where you realize, wow, I'm not my ego. Everything is not just what it appears on the physical plane. So that shock of recognition, yes, when the Tower shows up in your life, if it is your guide all the time, you have to constantly, I think, sort of shock yourself awake, or make sure you're awake all the time. It's like lightning, I have to be aware, that's clarity, lightning, awareness. It's like, wow, what am I not seeing here? Maybe you have to pinch yourself all the time, or, however you make sure you're awake. So it can be, the people who are very awake, sometimes it's very hard for them to be in the world because you see more than other people. So you may have trouble fitting in, you may feel like a loner, you may feel like nobody really gets me, and there can be the Tower, because it's associated with the planet Mars, it has to do with action. You have to act, you have to voluntarily constantly take apart your structures, your ideas, your preconceptions, and really look at what's at the heart of things. You know what I mean? What's at the heart of things? What's really going on here? Things are not what they seem to be, and also that you may be going through a very kind of chaotic pattern in your life all the time, or you kind of build things up and then they get torn down, which is, Mars is the planet that rules Scorpio. So for, another influence would be Scorpio is always about this regeneration. There's this subtle influence then that, you have to destroy something to build. And that's the necessary part. People kind of resist change, but change is the name of the game. Every moment your cells are dying and being reborn. This is really the actual process of life, So to use that wake-up call, you could see it very positively as like, wow, I'm awake all the time. The lightning bolt, I got that flash of lightning. I'm so creative. I'm so wide awake. I'm so aware. You know what I mean? And so you could be somebody who's very much an innovator, somebody who really challenges people's assumptions. You know, it can be a very positive thing, not a negative thing, you know. And to go with it, to work with that energy. I'm an initiator. I challenge, you know, the status quo. You have to be strong enough, you know, Mars, it's martial arts there, you know what I mean? Maybe you need to do martial arts training so you're strong enough to go into confronting people, you know, and confronting the status quo and confronting the establishment, the government, or whatever it is that's bugging you that you're angry about or pissed off about. It's Mars, you know, I'm angry. I'm going to go in and fight, you know, fight the good fight, I would say.
Perfect.
Okay.
Very good. The next question from Loli. So her birth date came to 25. So her soul is number 7.
Right.
She wants to know if she can also read 2 and 5 as additional, since 25 is made up of 2 and 5. Can she use that and bring that in as additional energy?
Yeah, I don't see why not. In traditional numerology, that was how you would do it. Although, you know, in this system, you would really, you know, the number 7 is a complex enough card on its own. You know, I would bring in the associations that, you know, the number 7 has to do with the 7 chakras. So I would definitely, you know, use, you know, the chariot as well. I have to make sure all my chakras are open. And to me, the number 7, you know, it has to do with the days of the week. So it might be, you know, observing, you know, each day of the week is related to a planet. So today, you know, it's Saturday, it's Saturn's day. Sunday is the sun's day. And maybe you really learn to integrate the planetary energies. And so the number 7 has to do with laws of cycles. You know, every day has a planet. Each day is, you know, you associate with that thing. But, you know, if it works for you and it gives you more energy, you know, and more information, then yes, you could say number 2, high priestess. How do I work with the high priestess in my dreams? How do I work with my intuition? The number 2 is also about balance. So you have to balance, you know, both sides of the mind, the conscious, the unconscious. How am I a go-between? And then the number 5, the Hierophant, you know, how do I speak my truth? You know, I have to be connected to my higher self in order to ride the waves. You know, the chariot is always like, how am I emotionally in the driver's seat here? You know, the chariot, you know, I have to control my emotions. It's related to the sign of Cancer. So it's water, again, emotional control, you know. I know some people associate with victory as well, the chariot. Okay. Does that
Perfect.
make sense? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
Okay.
Another question by Audrey. I'm wondering if I heard correctly that a number 4 year has the shadow cards of the Death and the Fool.
Yes. Yes.
It's
So
combined of both.
Yes. So you would use both. And, you know, of course, you know, death and the fool, because again, death is destruction and the fool brings you to a brand new beginning. You know, 0 is an eternal number. You know, it's the eternal circle. Again, living every moment. The Native Americans have a saying that it's a good day to die. And I've always loved that saying because, you know, it keeps you fully living in the moment. If you know, one of my shamanic teachers said, you know, if you knew you had this much time to live, what would you do? It really helps you to be very clear. You prioritize, you don't waste any of your time. You just go, I'm doing this. I'm living fully, you know, using death as an ally keeps us alive, keeps us very focused, you know, and really being in the Fool. The Fool is the symbol of enlightenment. You know, it's about, you know, all time is now. I don't worry about the past. I don't think about the future. I'm just here. And, you know, I had a Tibetan Buddhist teacher and he said, you know, if you could really get that, that's enlightenment. It's that nexus of the infinity symbol. It would be like, wow, you're just blown away all the time, you know, with how amazing things are and you have no agenda whatsoever. You know, you're just trusting and being in the moment.
That's right. And also having myself, the Emperor card as a soul card, I always work with both the Fool and the Death. So I'm always moving forward, enjoying everything's positive, being enlightened. Yeah. And as soon as something comes upon that is no longer, you know, in chain and value with myself, then I have to shed it. And I'm able, working with the Death card immediately, to shed that and just keep moving forward. So yeah, I would definitely always work with both cards.
Yeah, and
it's a beautiful balance as well.
It is. And the shedding, you know, the symbol of the Ouroboros, of the snake biting its tail, is a very ancient alchemical symbol of the 0, which very much goes with that energy, you know. So yes, I would definitely work with all of them. And I think, you know, we all have to work with all of these cards, you know, and again, so we will, you know, usually go through them as the years go by. You will incorporate different lessons on different stages of your life. Yeah.
Perfect. The next question from Ruth. So I get 30. So am I a pure 3 with no shadow, or would I be Fool with the 0.
Okay, so your birthday reduces
her birthday
to 30?
to 30.
Okay,
That's
30,
right.
yeah. I usually associate that you're just a pure number 3, okay, but the shadow would be the hangman, okay, for sure.
And the world.
And the world, yes. So the world, because if you're number 3, you're the empress, traditionally associated with, because she's the pregnant mother, the woman, like with being home, children, family. But the challenge then is the world. So those are usually considered sort of polar opposites traditionally, of course, now not. The challenges with the world is like, I usually think that people with the number 21 usually feel I need to make my mark on the world. I need to figure out who I am, what I'm doing. I have to be out there no matter how big or small that might be. You may need to just be at a street corner and give somebody money at some point. That might be one of your, what you need to do in the world on some level. And it's the planet Saturn. So again, this has to do with the hard knock reality. We have to learn through a lot of patience and persistence and testings and obstacles and, the reality check and the reality tester. You really want something, you're going to have to sweat it out, So it's learning to appreciate that we're here on the material plane. That's the final journey. We have to bring all of this spiritual knowledge down to earth. We have to embody it here. This is why we're here on this earth plane. So yeah, using the world as a kind of ambition, power, career, Will's career in a sense. And then the hangman is what you need to let go of and what you need to surrender all the time and not getting caught up in, being the martyr, the scapegoat, taking the blame. Sometimes women, related to the number 3, traditionally women kind of were taught or indoctrinated to do that. They were, because we need to relate, we'll usually give up our own needs, so it's about also needing to learn to receive. Okay. So you always have to think about that the cards are always implying the opposite. I think that's a good general rule. That's like a shadow in general. It's like, what am I not seeing here? And there's always balance. Everything is balancing out. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
So if you're a number 3, then this is your year too. You're in harmony with 2019. The Empress, you will find that it really accentuates your creativity, the gift of love in your life, beauty, women, your mother, especially Empress is related to your mother as well.
Great. Next question from Ella. So for 20, I get the High Priestess and the Fool for the shadow cards, or did I get that wrong?
Okay, no, yeah, I think you got it wrong. If you're a number 20, if you're a number 20, no, I have these numbers too. So the number 20, your personality is judgment. Okay. That is the angel Gabriel. So I would really recommend that you literally work with the angel Gabriel and all of the 4 major archangels, Michael, Ariel, Raphael, Gabriel. They're just waiting for you to talk to them. You just have to say, Angel Gabriel, please come to me. I need to connect with you. And that's one of the ways to start to work with that card very immediately. I had an amazing dream actually about judgment, a full-blown lucid dream about that card. Where are we judging ourselves? That's one of the major things with judgment. We can be very judgmental and always seeing that whatever identity you have, you're going to have to let it go. It is a card of death and rebirth, another one of those major cards, letting go of your personality, your career, reinventing yourself, rising again. It's very much like the phoenix. In the Thoth Tarot, it shows the divine child actually being born again. Okay, so again, there's that rebirth of the divine child. And the number 11. So again, if you see 1111, that to me is a pre-encoded memory trigger. The woman who started 1111, that was her initial take on this. So every time you see 1111, it's a wake-up call. Am I really where I'm supposed to be? Is this, what am I doing here? Pay attention to that. Use the number 11. Again, you might want to experiment with, is it justice? Is it strength? And there can be both, and see which ones work with you or for you and on what levels. Maybe strength works with you as very much a will, and justice is very much about relationships, or how do I stay in balance. And then the High Priestess as your soul number, I believe that it's a number for you to remember that you were once a high priestess. Okay, that women were considered to be embodiments of the moon. They would draw down the moon. So really definitely work with the moon cycles. Traditionally, the women would always meet on the new moons to set new intentions. They would go to moon lodges and set new intentions, and then the energy builds from the new moon to the full, and at the full moon is a kind of a completion. At the full moon also you can stop and kind of at least honor that full moon, where what have I gained, what have I done in the last 2 weeks, And then at the full moon, you would sort of give thanks for what's happened, and then the energy wanes down. Now, everybody's governed by the moon, so everybody actually follows these natural cycles and these natural patterns, whether they're aware of it or not, because the moon rules the unconscious and it rules our bodies, and we're 70% water, so we are all drawn by the moon. But if you're a high priestess, I find it really helps your whole emotional, mental, physical, spiritual energy to work with those moon cycles. And of course, on the internet these days, it'll tell you exactly where the moon is and even what sign it's in. That's another thing I find it's really valuable to track the moon in its astrology sign, because people's moods change every 2.5 days as the moon transits another sign. So, there's a whole world to wake up to with the high priestess. Really, she is your guide. You're holding the veil. You're sitting in the twilight zone there of the mysteries. She's always in this kind of half awake, half asleep state, in a way, that liminal state. And she holds, on her lap, the tarot, the rota, the wheel, all of those symbols on her lap. So the pomegranates, again, the moon, using all those lunar symbols with you would really help amplify your experience of being the high priestess. It also gives you a lot of emotional strength. The symbol of the camel. She has a ton of emotional strength to keep herself going, even if there's no support, And so you might be a bit of a loner, I find, being the high priestess as well.
Perfect. And then the next question, Rohini, is, I would say the same question as Ella. So 29 reduced to 2, which is my soul path 20, my shadow, and the 20 personality. So I think we just answered it. It's 2 the high priestess, 20 judgment, and 11 justice or strength.
Right. Yeah. So I would, again, because it's, when the first 4 numbers have these 3 different symbols that they're working with, at least you have to work with all of them. But basically the high priestess, you have to trust her intuition. That is her biggest guide, the moon, reflection. You have to reflect. There's a balancing, again, using both parts of your brain. It's very feminine, kind of mysterious, working in the dark. I find that working in the darkness is very important. If you actually blindfold yourself before you go into a meditation, or, really shut out the light, you will activate all of your inner sensors, So that's very important. Again, working, if you can sleep actually and have the moonlight fall on you in a full moon, that's also a very good way to work with the high priestess energy. Mm-hmm. Or even turning, we're kind of like chickens. You can turn a light on for 3 days, even if you don't get moonlight, and your body will think it's the full moon. Actually, I know that sounds like a bit of a cheat, but it's true. Or go out in the full moon, watch the moon, watch her go through her cycles. If you can, it's very important. You are the moon embodied if you're a high priestess, And so people may not really understand what you're all about, so I appreciate that mystery. That's kind of a beautiful thing.
Great. Next question from Lara. My personality number is 10. What are my shadow and teacher numbers, please? Okay.
So if you're number 10, you're the Wheel of Fortune. And you're a gambler. You can be a gambler, a risk taker. You're ruled by the planet Jupiter, which is the largest planet in the solar system. And Jupiter is always considered to be what they call the great benefactor. He's like Santa Claus, in a way. So you're very outgoing personality, very positive. It's all about trust. Again, you're usually in the right place at the right time. People kind of notice that. Now, so your number 19, the sun, is one of your hidden teachers. Your soul number is the number 1, which is the magician. Okay. Now, we all have to learn to be magicians, but especially for you, the number 1 card, magician, this is your magic wand up here, your consciousness, your mind. So this is the gift of the magician, the planet Mercury, the messenger of the gods. So consciousness is everything. We have to be awake. So really understanding Mercury has a kind of a dual nature that, there's a rational, there's an intuitive part of your mind. You have to be aware of what the unconscious is doing, because we all want to intend positive things. Everybody would want their life to be groovy and the world to be a beautiful place, but we're still all processing all our shadows and the unconscious and the collective unconscious. So you have to kind of understand what's holding me back. What belief systems do I have that are holding me back here from having a clear intention? Okay. So you need to realize that every thought you think and every word you speak, especially, is creating your reality. And I know we all tend to do this. We all kind of sometimes say negative things like, oh, that's going to be hard. It's very natural for us to say that. But You have just created that reality. Now, my whole sense of this is you create the reality, you uncreate the reality. You just have to be aware enough to say, wait a minute, no, no, no. I mean, I understand there might be steps I have to take and things I have to learn. I have to be patient till something happens, but it's not going to be hard. You know what I mean? It might be challenging. Maybe you have to watch your wording here, phrase it more carefully and just say, you know what, okay, no, it doesn't have to be hard. I can change that. So being very conscious of your words, in the beginning was the word, the vibration, your sounds, the voice, all of those things. So as a magician though, but you get to juggle all kinds of things, very creative, an ideas person, a communicator, your mind is always going, it's always revving. It may be hard for you to kind of settle it down. And another little thing I do is if you're too much in your head, and I tend to be a heady person too, is I kind of literally just grab my mental energy here and I literally pull it down. You just kind of go, shh, pull it down to your heart. And you can tap, it's just like tapping, tap on your heart chakra. So it kind of awaken a little gland there. You just kind of center yourself in your heart. So, and you again, it's a practice. You just keep it going down. You can bring it down to your will chakra if you want, or even actually breathing into your hips, I find, is a very good centering exercise, especially for women. Bringing all that mental energy down into your hips, okay? Because we kind of think, all of our cells are thinking and aware. So the more you can kind of really embody that magician, this is your magic wand. Nobody can take it away from you. My intention is clear and pure. And you're an initiator, number one, you're an initiator. You like to start things too.
Beautiful. The next question from Tiffany, actually, if she's asking if we can go through the chakras slower for people so they can write down the Chakras Association.
Okay. No, it's funny. And I know there's different systems because I went and did my research. And my own way of doing it intuitively is not the traditional system. So I think it's better to do the traditional one. So the root chakra, root chakra, usually associated with the color red, grounds us to the earth. That's your survival chakra, is ruled by number 21, the world, which is also associated with the planet Saturn. So rooting us in the reality, okay, or survival, okay. The will chakra, the second chakra, is related to the planet Mars. So it has to do with sexuality. The number 16 is the tower, okay, related to the planet Mars. Okay, the third chakra, your solar plexus, the will chakra, is the wheel of fortune, number 10, wheel of fortune. So you would visualize that wheel, kind of the whole circle of the zodiac, the wheel of time, the Kala chakra at your solar plexus. It's a hara, they call it the hara in Japanese. So it's where you will out into the world. That is like the planet Jupiter. The heart chakra, the fourth chakra, is ruled by the sun. So you would visualize this gleaming sun card gold, number 19, at your heart. So really the heart is the source of everything. Your throat chakra is ruled by number 3, the Empress, Venus. So our words, speaking our truth, beauty, music, singing, all of that, the throat needs to be open. The throat is connected to the root chakra. So if you have trouble with your throat, if it closes up or something, you realize that you're maybe not feeling secure. So you have to work with both of those. Your psychic or your third eye chakra is related to the high priestess, number 2. So you would visualize, traditionally the priestess had a little half moon there, or, in the Hindus wear a bindu there. That's to signify that their third chakra is open. And then your crown chakra, the 1,000-petaled lotus, is related to the magician. So again, consciousness, number 1, magician consciousness, the awareness, the opening, okay, of the crown chakra. Okay, so that is the traditional created by the Hindus. That is that system.
Perfect. Next question from Jacqueline. I got 3 + 2, which is 5. So what is my shadow? So being the Hierophant, what is her shadow? And she says she is Aquarius, e.g. the star.
Okay. So if your number is number 5, then your hidden teacher is number 14. That's your shadow, number 14, which is the card of temperance. So the temperance angel is really all about balancing the masculine, the feminine, balancing the opposites, tempering things. Temperance is an old-fashioned word. Used to be associated with people who did not drink alcohol, actually. The temperance movement, they didn't drink alcohol. So, everything in moderation, you know what I mean? You could literally take it like that. You want to play with what these words mean. What does it mean to temper things? You kind of put two metals together, you create something else. So you could be a person who, especially as an Aquarian, brings all kinds of different elements together and combines them in a new way. So there's a kind of inventiveness there as well. In the tarot, this card is associated, temperance is associated with the symbol of Sagittarius, and it's called art or alchemy. And so I really like to think of it as the alchemical card of turning lead into gold. So it's kind of a very beautiful energy and literally being creative. One of the ways to get out of being the number 5, the Hierophant or the Pope or the High Priest, is Taurus energy. So it's very stubborn and grounded and fixed and can get overly focused on, what's happening on the material plane. You're only thinking about indulging your physical senses. That's Taurus energy, right? So getting too dogmatic about things, that's also the number 5. So really you have to play with your creativity all the time. And creativity is everywhere. You cook, it's a creation. You write, you sing, you do your job. How can I be creative? How can I bring the balance of the opposites together here? Because we really need that. Everybody has to do that within themselves. So, you are an Aquarius, you would look at all these different things. How can I bring them together? Because that's just your sun sign. There's way more to you than that as well. And the more energies you bring together, the more you have in this nice pot, this nice cauldron, you're throwing everything in, combining it all in a new way. I would see it as being extremely creative. And really, I would say use your creative side. That's a really important thing for you. And as a number 5, it relates to, again, the 5th chakra. In the Thoth Tarot, it shows this goddess Isis, or the symbol of the divine feminine, speaking her truth. I think that's very important that women learn to empower their voices. And the number 5 is also associated with the pentagram, which is actually the symbol of Venus. She traces out a 5-pointed star in her 8-year cycle. So it's actually always about love, right? Like Venus, love, the pentagram, the number 5. Everything relates to that. But that's quite an astounding thing. And the ancients kind of followed those symbols, and they knew that the upward pointing pentagram was Venus's cycle.
Okay, very nice. Next, another question from Ella. Do rising signs count too? Because I relate a lot to Sagittarius energy, should I work with Temperance and Wheel of Fortune too?
Well, we're, basically this is a numerological system, connecting your numerology, the numbers, with the tarot symbols. But yeah, if that works for you, there is a tarot mandala that you can use where you take your birth chart. Actually, I think I saw Tiffany had this. I looked at her site. You can take your astrology chart and bring in the tarot cards that represent all of the planets, which is really kind of a cool thing to do. And you can use them that way. So whatever your ascendant is, I forget, what did she say it was, David? Did she say what her rising sign was, or her ascendant?
She doesn't say.
Okay.
She just says if it counts as well.
If it counts. Well, I would say if you know your astrology chart, you have to work with the wheel. Again, we're working with the Wheel of Fortune. Tarot means a wheel rotation. Astrology chart is part of that too. You can use whatever your ascendant is. If you're a Cancer ascendant, for example, it would be the Chariot. So you would want to say, oh, okay, how do I approach life with the symbol of the Chariot? Where is that Cancer energy? Where do I need to make sure I'm in the driver's seat with that? You can do that with all of your planets. That's a whole other workshop, actually. But sure, whatever works for you, I would say go for it. Whatever brings you to it, I would say go for it.
All right. Elise is asking if you can talk briefly about the significance of the shadow concept. So the shadow card. So if you can explain a bit more in detail how that comes into play.
Okay, so the shadow, if you read Carl Jung, I think he was the one who really talked about the shadow here. Whatever our fears are, those parts of ourselves that we do not want to own and which we project onto others. For example, Donald Trump is the epitome of the person who projects his shadows out into the world. So whatever it is he's putting down there, besides from the politics, we'll just look at him as how he's exemplifying this. And I believe he is a number 4. I know he's a number 4. He's a king fool. So he's actually really the perfect embodiment, where he kind of, talks very simply and seems to act a fool, but, he's really the emperor. He's the king. And so, for example, here, the tower here, it has to do with your fears. Are you afraid that, life is going to fall apart, or what happens if my life is in chaos, or what happens if, very real practical things, I lose my job, what would I do? So you want to go into that and say, well, what would I do? What would happen if the worst happened? What happens if everything blows up in my life? Who am I without my identity? This is an essential question. I project, I have a constructed identity. If that wasn't there, then who am I? And that's really an essential question. You keep asking that question over and over again to yourself. You can sit in front of a mirror, you can look in the mirror and ask yourself, who am I if I'm not this edifice, this construction, this, tower that I present to the world, or my, my job, whatever it is, who am I behind that? It's kind of a mask as well. So whatever, if it's the hermit, a lot of people are afraid to be alone, and they have the hermit as their hidden teacher, for example. Why am I so afraid to be alone? What do I need to feel secure inside of myself? How do I learn to trust my own inner wisdom? So this is the work of the shadow. Now, it's a very in-depth work. I mean, people do this kind of work. We do it throughout our lives because we always have shadows. For example, if you get really famous, your shadow is buying into that projection, and a lot of people self-destruct. That's the other thing about the tower. It can be a self-destruction because your ego is not strong enough, do you know what I mean, to contain this identity in the world, you know what I mean? And so I think it's important that we constantly use the tower, for example, as a way to break our own projections. That's not all that I am. That's, I can still survive if I am not this identity. There's something more eternal about me. There's my soul, that continues. That never ends. This is all temporary. Things are always falling apart and reconstructing. Our cells are always reconstructing, So really it's just a process of going, what is it I'm afraid of, or why am I not owning that? For example, like the devil, if you have the devil as one of your hidden teacher cards, that is literally the symbol of projection, oh, they're all bad. You know what I mean? Like any kind of ism, racism, sexism, whatever, that's, you're projecting those parts of yourself that you just haven't owned, and it's fear, and so we need to own that. And it takes a lot of courage to do that. But then you're integrated. Once you accept your shadow and own it and kind of bless it because it's a teacher, all of this comes to us from a good place. Do you know what I mean? I mean, there is evil out in the world. I'm not saying there isn't. There is. But there's a teaching to it all, that we have to learn to become whole, to become complete. Okay, does that make sense?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Very, very, very good. Okay. Another question by Audrey. You've mentioned 1111. Is seeing other multiple numbers frequently? For example, 111, 333, 1010. I see 1010 all the time. Okay. Is the same sort of thing? Ask self, am I really supposed to be here, or does each number signify differently?
Okay. So 1111, traditionally, from my understanding, the woman who started the whole 1111 thing, her name is Solara, and she believed that it was a pre-encoded digital memory trigger, right? And it is the number of memory. Now, if you see 111, I always take that as a part of that sequence of the same numbers. 22 is a master number as well. So if you see 222, yeah, if you keep seeing those repeating numbers, they do signify a kind of wake-up call, but they each have their own significance. Like 333 would be like the Empress, in the tarot 3 times. So it has something to do with, amplifying love, the symbol of the Trinity, the pyramid, the triangle, the supernal triangle, if you're working with the tree of life, that's the most powerful energy. It's the symbol of creative energy. The 4s have to do with structure, also working with the 4 elements, very important, So if you see 4 4s, you might say, well, where do I need more structure in my life? Or am I acting like the king here, the emperor? Am I, too full of myself? Or do I need to assert myself more? Do you know what I mean? So I would keep looking at it that way and studying them. And it's a synchronicity, when do I see them? Do I keep seeing them over and over again? What is this message all about? And also, in your dreams, if you see numbers in your dreams, those are also keys to working with the tarot. You can also keep reducing those numbers if you can remember them, or even people see license plates and things like that. It's all synchronicity, I mean, traditionally there are master numbers, but any number that's doubled is a master number, but you're only working with a certain numbers with the clocks, of course.
And sometimes also just asking the questions to our guides, our
Yeah.
angels. Sometimes they're trying to give us a message. So if you're not sure, it's unclear, just ask the question, meditate
Mhm.
upon it, contemplate on it. You'll get your answer. Because there's reasons why we keep seeing these numbers. There's
Yeah,
messages we need
exactly.
to see. So when we're not sure, best thing is meditate on it, contemplate on it, ask a question, and you'll get your answer.
Yeah, I just want to mention a friend of mine, and she's a very powerful medicine woman and a seer, and she said she kept seeing 444 over and over again, 444. And we go to this place, this spa, and it's up in Bancroft, Ontario. And this huge fireball, I saw it in the news, was appeared over Bancroft, and they said it shattered. The meteorite shattered. There's probably meteorite fragments in that area, and it was at
Oh, wow.
4:44 in the morning. So she went,
Wow.
yes, you see, that's why I was getting that. She was very happy because we're all involved with helping this Grail Spring spot right now too. So she felt that was a really good sign. So yeah, so pay
Amazing.
attention, and you'll see how it works out for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Tiffany shares a question from Elise. What's the year cycle for the pentagram being traced out by Venus?
What is the year cycle? The number 5, you mean?
For the pentagram.
Not sure.
Yeah,
Not really sure what the question is.
Yeah, Tiffany, if you can please maybe elaborate the question more. So, yeah, it's what's the year cycle for the pentagram being traced out by Venus?
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Okay. So Venus appears as a morning star and as an evening star. Okay. So it has an 8-year cycle. So every year and a half, more or less, Venus changes from being a morning star to an evening star, and she traces out this pattern in the sky over 8 years. Okay. I'm not an expert on the Venus cycle. If you really want to read about that, you go to the Cosmic Intelligence Agency. I am one of their agents, actually. And Yulia, who's the lady who runs Cosmic Intelligence Agency, she's a Venus pentagram expert, and she can tell you all about that. Because Venus, when she's goes behind the sun or in front of the sun, we saw her very rarely in 2012 cross in front of the sun. That's when she goes into the underworld. So Venus is connected to the myth of Inanna, which is a very ancient myth about the goddess going into the underworld. And if you really study these cycles, it's amazing because you can also use them as a big time of transformation. Venus goes retrograde next year, actually, where we move from being in the light into the darkness and we're reborn again. So Venus is one of the prime symbols of the planet. Everybody watched Venus all over the world. The Mayans really worshipped her, and so she's very important. So you'd want to think about when Venus makes these star points over these 8-year cycles. Okay.
All right. So we have one last question.
Okay.
It's from Elise. It's a funny one. Speaking about shadow, my son's soul is 12. It means his shadow is 3. That means his fear is me as his mama, the Empress. But I think she inversed the 3 and the 12.
I would say, number 12 is the shadow or the personality, and he's a number 3, right? So actually, I would say he's probably loves you. He's very much mama's boy. He's very much a creative, Venusian. I know men are from Mars and women are from Venus, but I would say maybe he's one of these the new modern man who can really incorporate his feminine side, which is really wonderful. And so he may want to really do creative things, cooking, nurturing. You may be very nurturing little guy, which is very wonderful. And you need to kind of, everybody has both sides. Really encourage him to be in his feminine, creative, receptive, open, nurturing, loving. And his shadow, the number 12, the hangman, he may kind of hide himself a little bit. He may be, maybe see things a different way than other people. You know what I mean? You really need to support them. I believe that all these, kids that are born these days, they're on a very high spiritual level. I think a lot of them really know exactly why they came here and what they're doing. And a lot of them only have one number. This is another thing. People only have one number, I believe, are just, it's their personality, their soul are all on one path. So they're a lot, in a way, clearer about what they're doing. Yeah.
Perfect.
No, he's not afraid of you.
She just came back with a reply. She says, no, the other way around. His soul is 12.
Oh.
So I think maybe to clarify the root, it has to be the root number, the one digit that becomes the soul. So if you add up to 12, you have to add up 1 plus 2 again to get a one digit to be the soul energy.
Right. So the 3 would be his soul path. Okay. So learning through art, creativity, love, beauty, women might be very strongly influencing in his life, his own feminine. And the number 12 is the shadow. that he would work with then.
Perfect. Okay, I think that's it for questions. I think we can move for the lots of questions today.
Yeah,
we
that's
can
great.
move on to the offers. Let me see if I can share the offers here. So the first offer we have is Tara's class. So let me put that up, 25% off Tara's Turning of the Ages Tarot course. I'll publish this now. I'll also get the link. So I'll put the link in the chat. Give me a second, because we can only share one offer at a time. So let me also put the link so we don't lose the link there. All right. So everyone can just click on that link so it pops up on a new page, because I'll be removing this offer to display the other ones now. So I'll remove it in 3 seconds. 2, 1, remove offer. Well, the second offer, Tiffany's Retreat in Canada in the Laurentians. I'll publish that right away, and I'll also put up the link. Let me go in the chat. Also, for Tiffany's Retreat, if you do get the solo room, that includes also a free event ticket to the festival in September, to the Tarot Reading Festival in September. So you have the link in the chat and you have the offer displayed. I will remove the offer now in 3, 2, 1. And the last offer, which is for the 20% off the ticket for the festival. And I'll also display that link in the chat for everyone. So you can click on there, open a tab so you don't lose that. Links for the 3 offers. You'll also be receiving Tiffany's birth card bundle as a bonus. You should be receiving it by email. I would say here till tomorrow. Get an email, that special bonus offer. Again, it has a audio and ebook with that. And that's it. So I'd like to thank you, Tara, very much for having you today. Looking forward to meeting you in September.
Yes.
And thank you, Tiffany, very much for helping us on the chat, and also looking forward for you to meet you at the festival in Montreal in September. Thank you for everyone who's been watching live. Thank you very much for staying till the end. Appreciate it. And we'll see you next week. I'll be presenting how to use the Kabbalah as a map to get a bigger understanding on the major arcana cards in relationship with the minor arcana cards. Thank you very much, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Blessings. Bye-bye. Thank you, David. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Tara.
Okay.